In 2020, I started listening to Ram Dass. I started listening to all of his talks that I came across. And I used to walk and listen and walk. And one particular story he tells has been ringing in my ears, so to speak, lately. Because it's really something that I needed to hear and absorb, and it still has so much relevance to me. And he spoke about his disembodied friend. Can't remember his name. Emmanuel, I think, who said once to him that worry was not a fast track ticket on a speed train to go anywhere. Worrying about something wasn't going to get you anywhere faster. It was just extra baggage that you take along with you, because where you're going there anyway. So if you want, you can take the extra baggage, i.e. worry, or you can leave it behind because it's not a ticket to get you there faster. Yeah, that made so much sense to me. I have the kind of head that can create every imaginary worry possible, and then it doesn't come true and it'll find another worry, and then that one doesn't come true, so it'll find another worry. That is what the type of head that I have does. And when I heard that the first time, it rang so true, because when I look back on my life, yeah, I worried about everything, but I never had control over any of it, and life happened anyway, and life took care of me until now. And it puts me, I've been thinking about feeling into the idea of flow, because I'm really built not to create my own flow, but to be in the flow of the energy around me, to be picked up in a flow, moved, and then dropped off, and then picked up by somebody else, and dropped off and picked up, and this is my life. So I can take that extra baggage with me about worrying about how I'm going to pay the bills, worrying about how, most of it's about survival, future survival. And I can worry about all that stuff. Or I can just surrender to the flow that's happening, because the flow is happening whether I know it or not, whether I'm aware of it or not, whether I'm tuned into it or not. That is life, and life is movement. Energy moves, energy flows. It's going nowhere and everywhere. Yeah, it's moving everywhere and it's staying still. That's the sense that I have. But there is something that's happening, and when you start to read. I'm not a Taoist, but I read and listen to things about the Tao and the Tao Te Ching. It touches me somewhere very keen. I think it really talks to my splenic center, which is something that's just now. It's here in the now. And the best metaphor for the Tao is water. And water has a movement, and you can put it into different containers and different, make it flow here or there, but it has its own dance and its own flow. It's moving. And this image comes to mind, particularly as a projector, and specifically as one who has no motors at all, that are consistent. I'm like a raft. I'm like a raft that gets pushed and pulled by the currents. And I can fight against it. But if you think about, the place in the ocean called the doldrums, right? This one area, I don't remember the name of that sea, but there's one area where there actually is no current, and you can paddle and paddle and paddle. It's really hard to get out. It's really dangerous when somebody gets in there, because they don't know if they're ever going to get out of there. It could take months to get out of there, because there's no actual movement of the water in that place. There's no current, so you can try as much as you want, and it's hard to get out of there. Well, I'm kind of like the doldrums. So it's other people's currents, it's other people's energy that actually pushes me, pulls me here, pulls me there, invites me into relationship, whatever that happens to be. And if I like it, if my splenic center likes it, if it's correct for me, I piggyback on that current. That there's a sail that goes up, and then I ride on that wind, somebody else's wind, and I ride on that for a while. And things are brought out of me for whatever that person needed. And in the meantime, my mind can make all sorts of stories about what's happening or what's not happening. But there's a truth that goes beyond my mental linear thinking, because our conscious ego minds are trained in linear thinking, and life is not linear. I mean, things are so cyclical. Number one, things happen in such a cyclical way, but also they're coming at every place is a center, and every place is moving out in ripples. And so there's just a complexity of this net of how we're all interrelated and interdependent, and in one drop of water is the whole ocean, and so there's such a complexity of movement going on, that a mind that thinks linearly is always going to miss the majority of what's actually happening. And so I can let that mind do its thing, or I can, pack it up with worries and pull that baggage along with me, or I can just let it do its thing and be like clouds coming and going. It's another movement that is also not static. So it doesn't have to have any meaning, really. It can just be doing its noise. It's music that's playing. Sometimes it's music that's really annoying. A lot of times it's music that's really annoying. Sometimes it's music that's really beautiful. My mind has things that are really beautiful that it talks about, but it's not energy that's meant to push or pull us anywhere. And in that vein, I just grabbed some things from Ram Dass, some quotes that I've written down. As I listened to him, it was before I actually really delved into human design and what my design is, and understanding, seeing why life happened to me as it did. And so I just had this sense of things he said really resonated, and only now, a few years later, do I start to have more of an embodied maybe understanding of them. I'm not sure that understanding is the best word. Some of these things I don't feel like there's words for the experience. But here was something he said in his book, Paths to God. Relax. It doesn't really matter which next thing you do, because whatever it is, it will become your next teaching. And it isn't the thing you do that matters anyway. It's who it is that's doing it, where it's coming from in you. That means that all those choices and all those decisions aren't really quite so fraught and melodramatic as we like to make them out to be. In the end, it really doesn't matter what we're doing. In the end, what really matters is the energy correct? Is the energy flowing in a way that's correct and feels aligned? And then we can let life be a surprise, and the decisions, every decision we make doesn't have to have such weight, such heaviness to it. It can be light. You know, and I'm saying that as someone who likes to create mental heaviness, who has a habit of creating mental heaviness, but it can be light if I can just see the mind is just playing its own tune, and okay, play your tune, but there's a movement that's going on in the meantime, and we're gonna go in that flow. So it is a journey towards simplicity, toward quietness, toward a kind of joy that is not in time. It's a journey out of time, leaving behind every model we have had of who we think we are. It involves a transformation of our being so that our thinking mind becomes our servant rather than our master. The mind, I don't want to make it an enemy. Until it gets free, it's an enemy. My mind is an enemy until it's free. But I can see that my mind has its purpose. It's not without its beauty. It's just that it doesn't have a purpose in navigating my life. It's too linear, it's too slow, it's too behind the times, and it's too polluted with everybody else's well-meant advice from their own way of doing things, which might not have anything to do with me. So my mind is too full of conditioning. It's too full of the crap from my open centers. So there's too much pressure in my mind to be what I'm not, instead of allowing me to just be what I am, to be my little piece of the flow, my little piece of this whole net of interdependent flowingness, the water. There's no separation between the drops of water, to be honest. And yet we are all drops of water in this big ocean or river, if we want to think about the flow of it. This is the inner guru. This is the being within you who always knows. This is the being whom you meet through your deeper and deeper intuition, when you've gone beyond your mind. This is the being who is the flow of the universe, the tiny form of the entire universe that exists within you. And it's really interesting that Ram Dass uses the word intuition. In his case, as I've looked at his design, it was intuition. And he speaks about hearing it. He was auditory in his way of, in his inner authority. But for some of us, it's not intuition. For me, it's my instinctual taste that's fueled by or informed by the cognition of my inner vision. It comes out in the taste of things. Something tastes right, something doesn't taste right for me. Something tastes correct, tastes bad. So that's where my decision making is. It depends on what your authority is. For some people, it is something more auditory. It is the auditory intuition. For other people, it's an emotional touch. It's a sensitivity to this emotional touch. For other people, it's a sensitivity, or it's this desire, this emotional desire that gets clarity over time. For other people, it's the like this kind of expansive awe of the recognition of their own self. So I mean, everybody's design is different. Everybody's way of tuning in to their place and their movement in life is from an inner authority that's connected in a quite magical, kind of inexplicable way that's beyond the mind. It's pre-mental. It was already taking choices in the womb. It was already taking choices of how to create your fingers and how to build your heart in its vortex shape. It's something that's much more complex and at the same time much simpler than the mind, than the conscious. When I say mind, I'm talking about the conscious, not self-ego mind. So just one more here. When we are in harmony with the way everything proceeds from everything else, we cannot act wrongly. For not only are we in tune with the particular act we are doing in terms of time, but with all of the ways in which that act is interrelated with everything in the universe. It is a level of awareness from which actions are manifested that have no clinging, not even clinging to the effects of the act. We are not holding on anywhere. We're right here, always in the now, in the new existential moment. Moment to moment, it's a new mind. No personal history. We just keep giving up our storylines. That's from the book Grist for the Mill. Yeah, the storylines. So there's a projector who I listen to quite a lot and very helpful in the way he frames things. And he says over and over, your body has a life. Your mind is telling you a story. And in that story is where your suffering is. Your body already has a life. Your body is already in movement. From the moment that conception, and then you get the first division of the cells, your body is in a movement. There's an intelligence. There is a different type of consciousness. We are a binary consciousness. There is, in human design, you have two sides. You have the red and the black. The black is the one that we're more conscious of. It's a conscious mind. It's the way we conceptualize life. And that's where we create all of our stories, which are not bad, but they can create our suffering because it gets so pressured by the openness of our not self. So we get pressured to be all the things we're not, and that creates this anxiety in our mind. So until that mind is free, it's a bit of an enemy. On the other side, you have this unconscious body, which is pre-mental. It's taking decisions moment by moment of how to move. It knows its place in the flow of the river of this universe. It knows the way. It's not independent. We are all interdependent. But that body consciousness is so sharp. It's sharp. And I just keep remembering, I have to remind myself, my body built itself before any kind of conscious ego mind could interrupt and say how to do it. No, my body knew exactly how to divide its cells, how to create all the intricacy of all of the different tissues in my body. All of the different, we have different germ layers, and they're all acting in different ways, connected to different parts of the brain. The complexity is immense. It's incredible. And all of that happened before my ego mind got involved. And so, and when I'm able to create space to just witness my life and witness what's happening, I see my body making decisions moment by moment of moving or not moving, going there, not going there, doing this, to eating that, but saying this, interacting with this person, moving away from that person. My body's always doing these things before my mind can even enter in. And then my mind creates a story. So normally our suffering, our anxieties are from the stories we're creating, from the pollution of our not self that is pressuring this mind to create stories that create suffering. Because the body is actually just moving in space. It's in its line of geometry, moving in space, moving within the flow. It cannot be out of the flow of life. What can be out of the flow is the stories we tell ourselves about what's happening. I'm someone who's a witness, right? So I spend a lot of time retreating and reflecting and looking at life, looking at my own life, looking at experiences, my experiences. I'm an investigator of consciousness. I'm looking at what it is to be consciousness in form. And I often look back and I see that all the experiences in my life, I didn't control them. I didn't control them. They were happening to me. They were happening in and through me. But they were happening because life is happening. And I am life. Everybody is life. Life is happening. We don't need to control it so much. We can let go. We can let go. We can take our hands, this grip off the steering wheel, because there is an intelligence that is already driving. It's already driving. It's been driving at least since that first cell division, if not before, right? It's already been driving, and it's going to continue to drive. So you can freak out in the back seat, take the worry, take that extra baggage with you. I'm speaking to myself. Abbott, you could take that extra baggage with you, or you can let it go, leave it alone, and enjoy the ride. And the tool that life has brought me in the last years to really help me become more awake to that is the human design map. Seeing the map of my design. But then you take it and you rip it up and you throw it away because it's only a map. It's not the actual life. But it is a useful tool. It's really helped me to see and change the perspective, because it's just about the perspective. There's nothing wrong with my life. There's nothing wrong with your life. There's just a mind that creates a whole bunch of bullshit about you suffering because things are not what you think they should be. And in the meantime, life is moving. You can just let it be what it is.